Good morning. We have a fantastic panel today. Some sharp minds and bold voices that we can expect on the topic that's kind of in discussion for the last 2 months, ever since Minister made a statement that went well for somebody, that didn't go well for certain people, and all of that. Indian startup scene is buzzing. We see a lot of energy. There's a lot of ideas that's shaping up, particularly in the AI space over the last couple of years. Now, the big question is, are we really innovating or are we imitating what has worked in other countries already? Like I said, the minister said we need less of fancy ice creams and more on deep tech. So, are we really there? Are we really on big tech? What is the status as of today on the AI startup front? Let's unpack this today. As we speak, the minister post his statement today. He's going to meet the founders back in Delhi to discuss on the same topic. So I'm hopeful that there's something material that will come out of that meeting. So let's have this discussion, take it forward. We have an investor, we have three founders, and I'm happy that it's going to be a fruitful session. So let me start with Gauri. You must be listening to a lot of pitches. So the question of are we really there in terms of the deep tech startups? What is your stance? Are we innovating or not?
No, I think we are privileged to have a ringside view of speaking to many early stage founders, right? Roughly, we speak to about 10,000 founders every year, right? And I'm an optimist, and I'm very bullish on India and innovation happening out of India, right? And we are starting to see the early trends of it, right? Just to put things in perspective, the number of patents filed in India in 2013 was about 10,000 per year. In 2023, that number was about 40,000 per year, right? And just a 4x jump in 10 years. And among the countries, we are the one which has the fastest growing in terms of number of patents and innovations that are getting filed out of India. So that's one very big positive trend which is driving innovation. Second, we are also seeing a lot of other trends, right? Like we are seeing folks moving back from outside India, reverse brain drain, right? People coming back from outside India to drive innovation out of here. For example, we have backed a startup where the founder used to work in NASA laboratory in US, coming back and saying, I want to drive innovation, build something unique for the Indian market, right? Third, we are also seeing private capital into innovation, IP-led startups, right, growing significantly, right? Just deep tech funding for startups is likely to probably touch $1 billion a year in 25 or 26, right? So multiple things that we are seeing, and we are seeing founders innovating for very India-specific problems like voice models, genetic voice models, speech recognition models for local languages in India. We are seeing founders building for unique India problems. How do you solve offline retail observability using AI? Bunch of these that we have backed as well. So a lot of action in deep tech, in innovation, IP-led innovation. So I don't buy the theory that India is only imitating. India is innovating significantly. That said, there's a lot more that can be done as well, right? Because we still have a lot of catch-up to do compared to countries like US and China, which are significantly ahead of us in terms of IP-led innovation. It's only a matter of time before we get there. If I just look at the AI stack, while we are innovating a lot on the application side, there's still room for us to catch up on the infra side and the model side, right? We can do a bunch of small language models that are relevant for the India market. So that would be my take on this.
So where are we? Are we innovating, enabling, or are we into the user ecosystems? How do you place the AI startup scene in India?
Can you repeat the question?
In terms of, are we innovating in terms of more products are coming in, or are we building more use cases and probably using those, or are we?
So I think definitely we are innovating a lot on the use case layer, using the AI capabilities that are available. we are starting to see some early trends on building AI as well, right? In the sense, at least in the last year, I've seen 3 or 4 people trying to build foundational models, small language models for India, right? And we are also starting to see some action on the infra side, right? Like, for example, we have seen Indian startup trying to build serverless GPU, enabling startups building on AI much faster, right? Early days on the infra and the model landscape, but a lot of action on the application landscape.
Thank you. Glad he mentioned that the patent has almost 4 times increased in the last 4 years. So you also touched upon the Indic languages. So now I'll take the question to Gaurav in terms of the localization. Nandan Nilekani said we need to build use cases locally and solve the local problem. While the perception from the ministry seems to be like we need Tesla on Bangalore roads immediately. So how do you see this? So on the localization front, if you can address.
Sure, Prabhu. That's a very important point. I'll get into that, building a little bit of context, picking from your previous point as well, because something that I've understood very early in my life, the difference between innovation and invention, and how is that differentiated in Indian context as we go into localization on vernacular side, rural India as well as healthcare. But invention has always been about building something completely new. Innovation is not. Innovation is finding application of that invention with an impact at a larger scale. That's what we have to differentiate when we see ourselves. Second, in terms of it being derivative is not being unoriginal. Derivative could bring in lot more technical aspect, lot more creativity into the fray, which may not have existed in the ecosystem before that. Thirdly, we should look at, I think Gauri touched upon that a little bit, I'm just expanding onto that, the funding in the Indian ecosystem. Because if I just look at 2024, Indian AI startups, if I remember the number correctly, just garnered $560 million of funding in the entire year. In October of 2024, OpenAI's funding round was $6 billion. That's a scale of 1 by 10. When I even go further down, Indian $560 million, 90% of it went towards application instead of just pure invention, or foundational, if I were to say so. So we have to look at all those contexts and then look at how localization is bringing the impact. I'll probably, to answer your direct question, I'll take 3 examples, which somewhere also makes me feel proud to be part of Indian AI and tech ecosystem today. First is a use case which is live today in Baramati, Maharashtra, where the sugarcane farmer today in Baramati could ask an agri assistant on their feature phone and understand about the weather forecast and when should they irrigate their land. This, over the last 8 months, has brought about 65% increase in their yield. That's massive. From 70 tons to 120 tons per acre. That's the power which an Indian originated ecosystem is bringing. And how it has been helpful, because the vernacular is important over here. The farmer could not operate directly with an English-driven model. So they ask the question in Marathi, get answer in Marathi. Even though the ecosystem behind would be an NLP layer, translating that local language into English, and LLM coming in to understand the intent of it. If there is a image of the crop involved, there is a computer vision model understanding that, right, and then building out the answer to provide help to that farmer. That's immense. That's the power of localization that we are seeing to serve the 22 plus scheduled language that we have, the 120 plus the other languages which is spoken by more than 10,000 people in India, or the 19,500 dialects. Can any English speaking model serve that today? No. So their localization is very much critical. Similar example.
Yeah, I think in particularly in the agri space and healthcare and education space, the localization has helped a lot, and we see a lot of startups working on improving the productivity in kind of building certain systems where healthcare improves. Let me also take the question from Saurav in terms of what do you feel on the localization front and how do you see this?
Yeah, definitely. So first of all, as Gauri mentioned that in India, we are not exactly building a lot of foundational model, right? But there's another perspective to it. I believe that we don't always need to build foundational model from the start. So for example, Cursor or Perplexity, right? These are the companies who are one of the fastest growing companies in the AI space and have been able to reach $200 million. They don't have a foundational model. And same is applicable for a lot of AI companies. We also have to go a little bit back to what happened when foundational model came into existence, right? That was a time when there was a gold rush. Everyone was thinking that that it's a winner takes it all market. But the way open source has leapfrogged the closed source ecosystem, it's not the case anymore. So I had a similar experience when we were building Vani AI. It is a voice assistant which we are building at Velocity. The existing models were very, very superior when it comes to languages like English or Spanish, right? But when we were building it for Indian languages, for Tamil, for Hindi, the quality was not at par. And there were small issues, right? When even the models, the LLM models, when you are working with Tamil languages, the number of tokens will be much, much higher. The cost will be much, much higher. That basically limits the adoption and the cost which we'll be able to offer at the Indian scale, which is very, very important. So that's why I feel that what is really important is a hybrid approach. Contextual relevance is more important than technological novelty. So we need to make sure that whatever open source models are there or the foundational models are there, those are more contextual to Indian context. And at the same time, we should not limit ourselves to just application layer only. We also need to make sure that we have a better training ecosystem to ensure that the AI is being beneficial to the Indian scale, to each and every individual, to the billion people in India.
Right. So now, catering to the India market is, it's varied parameters that comes in, right? So how do we address that? Do we have enough funds to have that? So while we talk about localization, let me take this to Harneet in terms of, do we have enough support from the investor ecosystem to kind of have these localized ideas materialize? I know investor is sitting here, he might have a different say, but before going to him, let me have your say.
Okay, so audible, na? Good morning, Bangalore, first of all. So I'll answer your question, but before that, I'll give a bit of backstory what minister has said. I believe that 98% I agree with that. I'll tell you why 2% disagreement. Because we need to be very, very self-critical of that. When Gandhiji was thrown out of train, that somewhere led to the Indian independence movement. Otherwise, for 200 years as Indians, we were fine being ruled by Britishers. And a lot of our people were very happy doing that. I'll also share a personal story which motivated me to start up, right? So I am from IIT Delhi. So during my IIT days, typical IIT guys, we have a vision to crack into Google, Microsoft, right? And I was also preparing for that. And in my second year, in my third year, I went to Harvard conference. I got selected there, and at Harvard, we won the competition. There were 60 nationalities, and we won the business competition, right? And the kind of POCs we built, and so many praises and so many, flowers and all that stuff, and we were on the top of the world. After that, networking dinner was happening, and I met some of the old white Brits, okay, those guys, and they were like, yeah, you're an Indian guy, you coded all this with your hands. Wow, you guys are amazing at working hard and all that stuff. I'm like, yeah. So he was surprised कि हमने वो सब कुछ we have coded with our hands, and we were like, okay. For them, coding is such a big deal, and we were here. Our first year kids were doing that kind of stuff, so they were surprised with that. So I was very unhappy. He's not looking at my innovation, but just looking at the fact that I'm hardworking and did that coding myself. But anyways, then we spoke, and then I was telling him stuff. He said, good, you guys are good at winning competitions, but let me tell you what I have seen. You guys are good at running Microsoft, but you can't build a Microsoft. And that time Satya Nadella, was recently made this thing, the CEO of Microsoft, and we all, Indians were taking a lot of pride. We were also like, Satya Nadella is our guy, and he's the CEO of Microsoft. We were also, bragging this thing. And this guy, and that moment for myself and my team members who are also my co-founders today, we were like, बात तो सही कर रहा है, मतलब, okay, we are offended, but do we have the guts to go back and not work for Microsoft? If I have worked 16 years of my life dreaming of IIT, right? Went there, did a lot of things, won a lot of competitions, be at global stages. In the end, to work at a job which probably they are outsourcing, and my salary in India would be less than the salary of a McDonald's, waiter in US, right? For us, it would be 14 lakhs. For them, it would be $20,000. It's just an arbitrage. So am I made up to just bridge that arbitrage. And I guess that offense is very much required for you to do something else. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to sit for placements. At least I'm not going for any of the big tech company, even if I sit for placements. So that's where I went to Flipkart that time. And I chose Flipkart after having offers from, Google and Microsoft and people like that. And I believe that was a very, very nice decision against my parents. My dad still hates me for doing that. And I guess the minister's question, we need to be self-critical. Foreigners were already saying that stuff. We were either hiding it or we were either accepting it. But when our own ecosystem questions it, I guess that's the right thing and a very right concept. Coming back to this answer, do we have enough support? The answer is no, clear no, right? Why? I'll tell you, because here we look at, we want to innovate, but we always look at the playbook. Do we have somebody who has done that before? We don't want to be the first movers in a lot of cases, which is fine because we are as an economy, right? We want to solve for those kind of problems and we want to always look at social proof and those kind of cases. So in terms of that, I guess when you build in US, so I'm the one who's built in UK, US and India, first chance you won't get here. But at the same time, positives, once you get a chance, once you have proven yourself through MVP, through revenue, then there'll be a lot of people who'll come to support. But I guess we need to build an ecosystem, maybe for corporate startup partnership where you get the first chance.
Right. While you say that there's not much of support, there's an investor sitting next to me. Probably he's not fuming, but waiting to answer with a critical question. So please, Gauri.
No, I beg to disagree, right? I want to put some facts on the table. In the government just announced a fund of 10,000 crores, right, which is going to be dedicated, focused on deep tech and AI. And I just mentioned this earlier as well. This deep tech startups in the last year raised about 677 million USD in funding, and I think that will probably cross $1 billion this year or next year, right? So there is a lot of interest. More specific example, I mean, a month back we had few IIT grads come out, wanted to build a AI-based robotics platform that has a snake arm AI, a snake arm robot that can go clean oil wells. I mean, a unique idea, innovation, and there were at least 7 to 8 investors, right, trying to fund that startup, right? And Antler was one of them, right? So there is a lot of interest, there are a lot of appetite to back founders, right? So things are changing. Having said that, I think to your other point, are we at a point where students graduating out of tier 2, tier 3 city colleges see entrepreneurship as the first option as opposed to taking the best paying job available on campus? Probably we are not there. But that's not only a investor support problem. There's also a lot more work that needs to happen as an ecosystem, both in terms of giving exposure to these students, right? Exposure to these founders. Once that happens, I think we'll get to that stage.
Yeah, quick point I'd like to add and clarify also. I also believe it can't be just investors. See, look at OpenAI, who funded them. It's not a VC fund initially, it's Microsoft, right? The first, funding which happened, because I guess you don't just need VCs or angel investors. You also need universities, academic institutes to sponsor some research, because R&D typically takes 8 to 10 years to come out, and no investor can be that patient, right? And they can't put all their eggs in that basket. Plus, the mindset also, needs to change for founders, because the fancy ice cream problem, if they see quick money, as founders, we are also a little bit impatient, right? Everybody wants to get rich, get a villa in Camellias and all that stuff, right? So, debatable. But anyways, the point is, the overall as an ecosystem, the patience and that thing is lacking, because that's how our economy is growing, and we want to get quick fixes, get quick solutions. Having said that, not all of the population at population scale we need deep tech. Maybe even just 1% of the Indians, they develop that kind of things, they can build for the rest 99% of the Indians and lead the deep tech innovation.
Right. Now, since Gauri touched upon the tier 2, tier 3 aspect, we saw, talked about the localized startup ideas coming in. I have idea. There is a VC ecosystem perhaps that's ready to invest in me, but do I have the right talent? How do I retain this talent when, kind of bigger companies are attracting a lot of, great talents, and then how difficult it is to retain that talent, particularly in the AI space? And do we have those talents?
very, very pressing question, I guess. Talent is the biggest problem. I agree. Funding, I have said this before. AI is a very revenue positive, field for me. At least like we've raised just 2.1 mil seed and we are almost 3 times that, ARR in just 1 year. Very revenue positive. Profitability less. But retaining talent is the biggest problem. So number one, yes, we have a little bit of gap in terms of the talent which is available in the market today because this technology, LLMs and optimizing them is just 2 years old, right? Agentic AI and all that stuff. So yes, you have everybody who's have agentic AI on their resumes, but you'll have very less people who actually know stuff, who have actually worked on ground with those things. And secondly, there are a lot of takers for those people. So definitely, even I guess my biggest pain point, my 60% of the cost today goes in salaries and remaining 20-25% in R&D. I want it to be reverse, but maybe, that needs a miracle. Talent is a big problem. That is a problem, right?
Right, let me also ask Saurabh. Saurabh, all the IT companies, right? Everybody wants to build AI agent. Everybody is talking about AI-led projects that they are getting, all of that. But though they don't specifically say what is the AI-led revenue that they're generating, on the talent front, what do you, see? Do we have, if all these IT companies have to build these AI agents, is upskilling the task, or do we have these talents ready?
Yeah, that's tricky. So I'll tell you my perspective, right? So there are two aspects to it. One is the core AI and the LLM talent, and second is the pure play technology, or you can say the engineering talent. I don't see India has any dearth of the second talent, right? We have a lot of engineers from IITs, from NITs, and a lot of those people actually used to go to US. We have seen a lot of reverse brain drain also in India, me including in that list, right? I belong to a 2009 batch. If I talk about 1999 batch of IIT Bombay, 70 to 80% folks would be going out of India, mostly to US. But that's not the case right now. 40 to 50% of the folks in my batch are actually in India, and out of that, 10% would be doing startups. But obviously, what is lacking right now is the real AI talent. And see, it's not a problem of the institution. I feel it's a chicken and egg problem. In the US, we have a lot of these bigger companies, OpenAI, Microsoft, Google, spending billions of dollars, and they already had a lot of great talent. So VC is also not to blame, because VC will go towards the concentration bias. So they will go towards the areas where there is a lot of concentration of a talent. There is a flywheel effect because of that. You have a good ecosystem which is thriving because of that. So I think, and this also becomes very tricky because, see, you might have heard about two undergrads building TTS model, right? Or DeepSeek kind of a model built by 2 or 3 folks. While there is an issue of talent at scale, we cannot just shy away from that with that excuse, because we have world-class institutions in India. If we have a right education, if we are giving AI education at the right point to the undergrads in India, I can definitely see that we can see a lot of foundational models coming out of India as well, as China is doing that. But I think there's a lot of government and the corporate collaboration which needs to be there. A lot of R&D budget needs to be allocated to the institutions and the corporates, and that's the way to go, in my opinion.
Thank you for touching upon the government collaboration part. If you look at the India AI mission, right, the talk started way back in 2018, but the funding came only in 2023. So there was already 5 years. Perhaps it was lost in time. We were kind of laid back there. So if you can talk about the role of regulation and policy, how it is shaping up, the ecosystem.
Yeah, sure. You're absolutely right, Prabhu. It took 5 years for the funding to even be announced. Coming to the startups is a second stage. But yeah, in the regulation front, there's so many aspects which are good in terms of the perspective. If I were to take that, the half-class full perspective to begin with, we have India AI mission under MeitY, which is doing a very good job in terms of organizing everything. We have the AI course today. It has 300 plus data set, 150 plus models, several tools, a sandbox environment for developers, a lot of things to get you started from the localization perspective, if I have to If I am a developer or a new startup beginning out, AI Coach is a great place to go to. Then we have the DPDP Act, which is coming up. It's early stages, but still India has taken a good initiative vis-a-vis the rest of the world in terms of putting in regulations in place, not just looking at case by case or sector by sector example, but more comprehensive. Then the funding, if I were to talk about, there are two levels which are already being approved from the central government perspective. The 10,700 crores of compute, which India AI has to distribute amongst all the emerging AI startups, and the 10,000 crores of funds, which it will get distributed through VCs into the ecosystem. So funding is there, the regulation is there, the models, the data sets, the ecosystem is there. Uh, I think what's still stopping us out of the two aspects, one is what you kind of touch upon, is the bureaucracy in the system. Why does it take so long? If I need the compute as a startup, I needed it yesterday, not tomorrow. So can we make that process faster? Can we get those changes implemented faster? And the second, I believe, is more foundational, not from a GPT or foundational LLM perspective, but more foundational in the ecosystem. Is the ecosystem there to support startups to prosper? We all keep talking about Silicon Valley, but do we really, and we want to replicate that, but without building the foundation for that. We just feel that just talking about it will make it happen. It was a tectonic shift which had to bring into space for the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Silicon Valley to prosper. India needs that kind of a shift to happen.
Great. I think since we touched upon from the idea stage to the funding stage and how startups are kind of scaling, let's also touch upon, because we feel like each one is working in silos in terms of the government thinking, in terms of the educational institutions on talent front, in terms of the startups innovating on stuff. So I'll probably have a end note from Gauri in terms of how do you see this collaboration? Can we collaborate and then build better products, or do you see, okay, fine, each one is working in silos, is something that's going to continue?
No, I mean, there's no question. Collaboration is what will take it to the next level. I mean, making sure all the way from the policy making, right, supporting entrepreneurs, from the funding bit to founders being more ambitious, right, and wanting to go after tough and hard problems. I think all of this need to align. But I think the big thing is we are sitting on a gold mine in India, right? When we look at AI and AI agents, right, we have the benefit of a 30, 40-year-old IT services and BPO industry, which has actually run the processes for half of the world, right? And then now we have this transformational technology, which can just take the learning from this, and we could actually be the innovation capital for the world when I look at the next 10 years. I agree collaboration is essential, and it will happen, it is happening.
Thank you. While I hear from the investor, let me also hear from Saurav as a founder in terms of, on the collaboration front, if you can talk about how things have shaped up.
Yeah, I also share Gauri's thought that there's a lot of improvement which needs to be there. If you talk about, let's say, China and US, you see the government, the startups, and the academia works in collaboration. They work towards a common national projects and mutually a process where it is mutually incentivized, right? But I don't think that India lacks that totally. We are in somewhere in the middle ground. You have seen projects like Aadhaar, UPI, account aggregator, which are the projects at the immense scale. Those are the projects which were where government and the private institutions were involved. Even a developed nation are not able to build something at a what we have built at a scale of UPI and account aggregator. So it's wrong to say that India does not have that kind of an ecosystem. Obviously, there's a lot of improvement which needs to be there. What is really needed, in my opinion, right now is the similar push which we saw during these projects on the AI for the AI ecosystem, and I'm pretty sure that the kind of a talent which we have, the kind of a entrepreneurial spirit which we have in the country, will be able to make leaps and bounds from here.
Thank you, Saurav. I think we've had a broad discussion in terms of how things are shaking up in the AI ecosystem. From idea stage, like he said, on the talent front, there needs to be a lot of improvement. On the collaboration front, the government needs to, pump in or regulations, and they need to kind of bring in new regulations, all of that. So let me open up the questions to audience. I'm sure you all must be, before I let you guys ask questions, how many of you think that we are in that stage of innovating, or are you all thinking that we are imitating? If you can, how many of you think that we are innovating, or are we? Oh, very less. So rest. Do I take it as we are just imitating what other countries are doing?
Rahul, that's a wrong representation. People hate to raise hands, so your question should be opposite, in my opinion.
A question should be.
You should ask the opposite question.
Oh. Great. Let's open up for questions now. So.
Yes, let's get the mic to our brother here wearing a black jacket. Let's quickly get the mic to him. Do we have extra mics? I think we should, right? We've got a mic right there. Yes. From black suit to black jacket. Let's get it to him a little quickly. Anybody else? We only have time for like one more question. Yes, ma'am, we'll definitely come to you. Right there. Let's try to keep the questions a little short so that we can get 2-3 questions.
So I think the critical part of innovation is having a big mission. Like that's something that you really aim for. Like if you look at OpenAI or even DeepMind, the like origin story is because they really believed in the risk of AGI and the existential risk. So it was just a small band of people who really believed in mission who started OpenAI and DeepMind kind of companies. And the initial funding was not like it wasn't Microsoft, or they didn't raise 6 billion. It was a small project that worked on a personal investment of people like Elon Musk, Sam Altman, or Peter Thiel. So do you guys think like the main problem is not that the VC structure or the funding? I think we are not dreaming big enough. Like we're not aiming high enough. Do you think that's the core problem? Because all you need for a successful startup is a small band of people who really like mission driven and who like, because if you have a big mission, you will do anything which is required for it. Like this even includes upskilling yourself in terms of AI talent. And so do you think like we are not really thinking big enough?
I think if we ponder upon the minister's point was also that. Anyone want to take his question?
Okay. So I guess that is also the problem, but I guess there are a lot of folks in India who are dreaming big and then they go out and they found that ecosystem. One of the fundamental things is, which is not a problem, which is the evolution stage. For example, if you know Maslow's need hierarchy, right? So at the basic you have roti, kapda, makan, right? Food and all, then you have this, and at the top you have self-actualization and self-realization. So if you look at the developed economies, whether you go there or an American goes there, right? So they are, most of their basic needs are covered, right? So they are thinking of self-actualization, thinking of creating a legacy, and they can actually afford to do that.
Sorry to cut down, but let me point out something. Like the mark of intelligence is accomplishing complex goal. And the part of accomplishing goal is an instrumental convergence, which is basically having sub-goals. Like if you are really dreaming big, like if you have mission driven, then the sub-goals automatically becomes like finding ways to make it happen. So if you are really dreaming big, and if you are really intelligent to do that, then you will find a way to do that.
Actually,
that's what
you
I
have
think.
raised a very good point. Can I take it? It's valid at an individual level, but if you look at it at a ecosystem level, what Harpreet is saying will come into the picture. So at an individual level, what you are saying is perfectly right, that if I'm driven by a passion, if I'm driven by a mission, I can go through any kind of a pain and will still go through and will achieve my mission. But an individual can only go up to a limited distance, I would say. So that's why an ecosystem is really important. So if you look at the India evolution, the startup ecosystem and the innovation ecosystem is just a decade old. So even if I am very much passionate about the mission, if I am not getting that ecosystem and that collaboration, which is there, let's say in the San Francisco or the Silicon Valley, you can only go to a limited distance.
So would you consider moving out?
I think we'll let others also ask
Exactly.
questions. We can take it outside the session.
Exactly.
We'll have one last question from the audience, please.
Ma'am, one last question. We'll try to make it a quick one.
Ma'am, please.
Yeah. So when we talk about innovation in AI, whatever we do, whatever we create, however big we think, it is for India 1 and maybe India 2. Okay, there is a huge set of population in India 3 that we are not addressing, but with UPI we were able to get into that. How do we break into that market, and what do we as innovators and people who are regulators do to get this into the hands of India 3?
Karo, do you want to
Sure.
answer that? Probably it's
Yeah,
more on moving
definitely.
beyond tier 1, if I may understand. Yeah?
And reaching to the billion plus population in India, that's a very, very pertinent question. And thank you for asking that. This is something that is very close to me as well. I don't want to take too much time going into deep. We can have an hour-long conversation also on this. But when we start thinking about dreaming big, right? First of all, we'll have to change that notion of the West. Dreaming big is not about building the next foundational model in India. I don't think that's going to change our game. It's about getting the technology in the hands of a farmer in Punjab, a farmer in Andhra, a farmer in Maharashtra, in their local dialect, in their local language, and make a difference for them. Getting to an old lady in one of these tier 3 cities or tier 3 towns and helping them on the healthcare aspect. You brought a fantastic example of UPI. It did a great change with the USSD interface, where without the need of a smartphone, without the need of internet, UPI can work even on a feature phone today. AI has to take the same route. We have to bring that edge functionality for the end consumers, where they don't need a smartphone, where they don't need to understand a particular language like English to interact with AI or the chatbot. They don't need to depend on good network condition for that to happen. We'll have to do edge being one critical component. Second, the inference cost. The West can do inference at the rate that they are doing because they are serving hundreds of millions of people. Our problem is to solve a billion plus today. I cannot run any model at the inference cost that maybe OpenAI or Anthropic will run. That's where the distillation, quantization, SLMs, domain-specific knowledge, there are various techniques that we can deploy to bring the same power of an AI model to a billion plus population. There are a lot of things to be done. I won't say we are anywhere even close to say that India is ready for a billion plus AI infiltration, but there are ways, ma'am. Similar to UPI, we can do it. We can make it happen.
I just want to add one last line. So, in one line, I guess, Tier 3 India needs more chance, and we need to give them chance. And one simple example, which we have tried to do, can we hire more prompt engineers from those cities? Right? Can we train people to become prompt engineers and be utilized in business? And that is something, we're trying to hire a lot of people from there, be it on a freelance basis, make them earn 5K more. Can you make a mid-age shopkeeper also? Like when computers came in, you have typist job, you have computer operator's job. With AI coming in, I guess prompt engineering is a big field. We look at that, can we generate more employment opportunity? Extra 2K per month, extra 5K per month can motivate them, and the ecosystem can, automatically grow from within. So I guess they need more chance, and we need to create opportunities to give them chance.
Thank you. Thank you for the questions and answering that. I think we have great number of startups. If you look at some of them, I mean, while to be on the optimistic side, like Gauri, see if you, I'm sure you all have heard of Idea Forge, Servam, Unifor, Bellatrix, Pixel. So we are there. I mean, there are a lot of startups which are innovating and then doing wonders. So I think we just need to have the right ecosystem to be in place. Thank you very much. I think we wrap up the session. Thank you.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, delighted to have this as the first panel of Happy Llama 2025. We request our panelists and our moderator to come forward towards the front of the stage. A lovely photo op moment. Please do come forward. Ladies and gentlemen, Gaurav Bed, Saurav Swaroop, Gauri Shankar, Harneet Singh, and AIM's own Prabhu. Huge round of applause.